Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we have got one dark story in every single European country. Every single one, maybe not the Vatican, they've got their own dark stories. Unfortunately not to do with football. Of course, you guys know I like to do the icebergs and do the entire history videos, which I think are my best ever videos, and this is a brand new segment that I think you guys will absolutely love. Covering the world of football and highlighting some stories that sometimes go underneath the rug and get lost in the entire ether of football nonsense. So comment down below which story from your country do you want to add down below. And due to the length of this video, this will be split into two parts, so 4,000 likes and part 2 is out. We've done quite a lot of good things here, and Mazar Designs, my own design company, it's always right behind me, it's my own stuff. Make sure to use code Vizeh for 15% off all items. Where else can we start other than the worst country in Europe? France. The Zahia affair scandal. Now this dates back all the way to April 2010, just before the 2010 South Africa World Cup. What took place involved a woman called Zahia who was a prostitute at the time, and at the time, most importantly, was a minor. How this occurred, that a brothel was raided in Paris back in early 2010, with many women being called in for questioning by the French police. From that questioning, 4 players from the French national team was named. The 4 players that were identified was Hatem Ben Arfa, Karim Benzema, Sidney Gouvou, and Franck Ribéry. Of course, this was a massive scandal in the French media and greatly disrupted the French national team for that World Cup. It is important to highlight that Zahia didn't disclose that she was underage or minor during these events. In July later that year, Benzema and Ribéry were indicted for solicitation of an underage prostitute, and this led to a trial in January 2014. The key details of the case was that the players involved did not know that Zahia was indeed a minor at the time. And after a 10-day trial, the court dropped the charges against Franck Ribéry and Karim Benzema. 5 other defendants of the trial were found guilty of pimping and received sentences. Westerlo v Genk 2024. Next up is a story in Belgium, which is only as recent as last season. On a final day of the Belgian Pro League, Westerlo and Genk played on the final day, both needing a point, resulting in multiple players being fined, banned, and even a manager being sacked on the spot. Both Genk and Westerlo needed a point on the final day of the season. Westerlo needed a point to avoid relegation and to stay up in the Belgian Pro League, and Genk needed a point to also solidify their space in the Belgian Championship round. In the 80th minute, the home side took the lead to make it 1-0. However, 6 minutes later, it ended up 1-1. With the last 4 minutes, you would have intended to be a really tense battle to see who can get the final killer blow. What actually took place was, in quote from the Belgian FA, a mockery of the sport and calling the Belgian Football Association in question. Several bizarre moments happened in the final few minutes of this game, which is in the background as you can see, and is blatantly obvious that both sides completely wrote the game off at this point, with even opposition players shaking hands before the game is even over. In the term of a credible league, this cannot fly. It can't fly whatsoever, and it was called out immediately, with the Westerlo manager Rick de Mille losing his job immediately afterwards, with a quote from the chairman of the team saying, "The club regrets having to take this measure, but cannot accept its values and norms to be questioned." And after this game, 21 players were fined because 1 player was also sent off from Genk, and both captains were also banned for a couple of games. The footage of the game is just really odd to see. It's like when you're playing FIFA and your controller stops working. It's just really baffling, and it does call into question the credibility of the Belgian Pro League, and they paid the consequences for it. The Dynamo Red Star riot. What I'm referring to is the Dynamo Zagreb v Red Star Belgrade riot of 1990. On the 13th of May, In Zagreb, a football riot took place between two ultras groups, the Bad Blue Boys and the Delager. The incident took place just weeks after Croatia's first multi-party election in almost 50 years, which was a vote favouring Croatian independence from Yugoslavia. This riot resulted in 60 people wounded, including multiple people stabbed, shot and poisoned by tear gas. The police at the stadium was very quickly overwhelmed, and within an hour the stadium was on fire. One infamous moment from this match is remembered in Croatian folklore forever, and that man is named Zvonimir Boban. During the chaos, the Dinamo Zagreb players still remained on the pitch, with the Red Star players already leaving for the locker rooms. Boban, who was the captain of Dinamo Zagreb, kicked a police officer on the pitch, who was at the time mistreating a Dinamo Zagreb supporter. This event would come to symbolise the Croatian nationalist beginning of the Croatian resistance against Serbia, and Boban is claimed as a national hero for Croatia. This event, this riot, is believed to have sparked the Croatian War of Independence, the football match that started a war. The Emiliano Sala incident. We are going over to Wales, and this is very obvious of what's going to come next. The transfer of Emiliano Sala from FC Nantes to Cardiff City. On the 19th of January 2019, Welsh-based Premier League club Cardiff City agreed to sign Emiliano Sala from League One club Nantes for £15 million. The striker was brought in, of course, to keep Cardiff City in the Premier League. However, 2 days after the transfer was completed, Sala and a pilot called David Ibbotson travelled via a private plane that disappeared over the English Channel. However, only 2 weeks later, on the 7th of February, a new search has begun, with Sala's body being recovered from the wreckage of the plane. After an investigation, Ibbotson, the pilot, was unlicensed to fly that plane, as well as unqualified to fly at night, and both was exposed to high levels of carbon monoxide during the flight. What makes it even worse is what occurred after the fact. Not only the absolute tragic element of a player and a pilot passing away over a football transfer, but the legal dispute between both clubs that has gone on for multiple years now. Before Sala was even found, FC Nantes demanded the first of the 3 payments for the player. However, Cardiff City refused to make that payment, claiming that Sala was not legally their player yet. An investigation took place, with Nantes being called in favour, leading Cardiff to begin another legal process to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Cardiff City later received a ban for 3 transfer windows, and in August 2022, Cardiff was seen liable and was forced to pay for the transfer of Emiliano Sala to FC Nantes. Cardiff then later filed papers claiming wrongdoing of FC Nantes, pointing fingers at the agent at the time, Willie McKay, claiming wrongdoing on his part of faking interest of the player and being responsible of arranging that fatal flight. Cardiff later did pay Nantes for the transfer fee. However, the years after his death of this entire legal dispute, it leaves a sour taste in the mouth of how this situation has occurred. Sandor Szucs. There's many tragic stories in Hungary's football history. However, this by far is one of the most damning. And this, of course, is a story of Sandor Szucs. Szucs was a top prospect for the Hungarian football team, and in 1948 he fell in love with a woman called Ersi Kovacs. In 1948, Sandor and Ersi met, and they instantly got along, and they wanted to be together. However, at the time, both were already married, and the state at the time would look down upon this situation and look down upon their relationship. And the dictatorship had no qualms about getting into people's personal lives. The manager of Sandor's football club, which also belonged to the Ministry of the Interior at the time, had a chat with Sandor Szucs and demanded him to end their relationship. In a true love story, both lovers in 1950 decided to escape to the west, and since the border was closed, crossing to Austria was only possible with the aid of smugglers. Unfortunately for the pair, the smuggler they encountered worked for the secret police, and of course they were caught. The main issue is the authorities wanted to make an example out of them. Smuggler convincing Sandor to take his service weapon with him so that he would have a gun on him in his possession when he got arrested. On May 26, 1950, Sandor was sentenced to death after an appeal. His partner, of course, Ursi, didn't take this well, begging to the judge to please change his mind, in which the judge said if they're going to execute him for this, then so be it. Despite Hungarian football legend Puskas asking for the authorities to change their mind on this case, the authorities would not bend, with Sandor Szucs executed at the age of 30. The Hungarian authorities wanted to make an example out of him to scare away any Hungarian football players or athletes daring to escape to the West. What happened to his partner, Ursi? She was sentenced to prison for 4 years. One of the darkest stories in European football history.
The 2011 Finnish match fixing scandal.
Next up, we're going to go to a story a little bit less sad. We're going to Finland. In 2011, a scandal took place where the trial of 10 men were accused of rigging football matches in Finland. In this case, 9 players from Zambia and Georgia and a Singaporean man accused of bribing them went on trial for a match-fixing investigation which rocked the Finnish Football League. The Singaporean in question was a man called Wilson Raj Perumal, who was suspected by FIFA as someone who is involved of fixing international matches in African and Asian national teams. They claim that he offered players bribes of up to €470,000 to fix matches in the international betting scam that targeted a local team called Rovaniemi. He was also accused of bribing 2 more players at 2 other Finnish league clubs. From this case, 7 Zambians and 2 Georgians was charged of accepting bribes of up to €11,000 to €50,000, each to affect the outcome of the football matches at a time. The players in question were imprisoned for up to 2 years.
The Icelandic national team and their unfortunate accusations.
Now, when I say Iceland, what do you think of? Well, many of you think of the Viking clap and the fans and the scenes in the 2016 European Championships. Well, in recent years, it's not gone down a good path. Not only by the performances of the national team, but by many scandals involving some serious claims. In 2021, the Icelandic national team was mixed in a sexual abuse scandal, one that threatened to taint the legacy of its golden generation. The allegations of, I can't pronounce the name properly, but Þórhildur Gerða Arnarsdóttir, that's my best guess. He claimed to have been sexually assaulted by an Icelandic international back in 2017, identified as striker Kolbeinn Sigfusson. This later triggered the resignation of Gunni Bergsson, the chairman of the Icelandic Football Association, and 16 board members inside a week. The woman in question came out claiming that there was also more players involved. This led to a serious problem in Iceland, as the national team was held as heroes, household names, role models for the entire nation, and this calls it completely into dispute. This sparked a massive scandal where multiple women came out claiming harassment involving other players from the Icelandic national team. One other case that isn't associated to this but also puts a bad light is of course the case of Gylfi Sigurðsson, which is separate from this exact situation but is also an Icelandic player that was accused of behaviour in a very bad way, of a similar nature towards talking to an individual minor on social media. This led to a complete black mark on him. For about 2 years, no one saw or heard from him, and Everton let his contract completely run out and pretended that he didn't even exist. and he is still playing football now to this day. This case is actually so deep when it comes to the questions of which players were dropped for what reasons, and based on accusations that was false or true. This is very deep, and this could be an entire video on itself. However, in conclusion, the claims of sexual assault by the Icelandic national team players has scarred the legacy that it created back in 2016.
The Rubiales affair. Now we are going over to Spain, and no, the Euros final still doesn't hurt me. Anyway, this case began on the 20th of August 2023, where Luis Rubiales, who was the president of the Spanish Football Federation, acted inappropriately towards one of the Spanish women's national team players. This all came up after Spain beat England in the 2023 Women's FIFA World Cup final, and during this match, there were several incidents that Rubiales performed inappropriately. One time he was spotted grabbing his crotch while standing in the authority spots near Queen Letizia and next to her 16-year-old daughter. On the pitch after the win, Rubiales ran on the pitch and lifted up player Afinia del Castillo over his shoulder, and during the medal presentation, Rubiales forcibly kissed Spain's all-time top goal scorer Jenny Hermoso on the lips after grabbing her by the head with both hands. After this incident, she later disclosed that she has no idea what happened and she didn't want that to happen and she didn't like it. After, as well, Rubiales ran into the women's changing room, throwing his arms around the female footballers and joking around about marrying Hermoso in Ibiza. The kiss, of course, is the main incident in all of this that sparked out what was going to come next. Rubiales was, of course, called out for this, questioning an abuse of power and also SA. This was a big deal, with a lot of news coverage across the entire world, not only in Spain. However, it did create a lot of protests across feminist groups across the entire nation. It got so bad that the Spanish Federation threatened to actually sue Jenny Hermoso, the woman that was actually assaulted, and also threatening to sue the 79 women's football players who signed a letter in which they refused to play for their country as long as Luis Rubiales stays in power, stating, and I quote, "Playing for the national team is an obligation on any member of the federation called upon to do so, and they'll take necessary legal action towards them." This then led to a criminal complaint against him from Hermoso herself, and on September 10th, he then resigned from his position as the federation's president and vice president of UEFA. The Malta match fixing plague. Now we go to Malta with a case found this year, with a Malta Premier League side probed for match fixing. The Malta police force investigating a case of corruption within Maltese football, focusing on a top Premier League club. Match fixing in Malta is again a huge problem, with a survey put out to Maltese football players back in 2021 claiming that 2 in every 10 football players in Malta have said that they've been approached to fix an official match in the country. 27 out of the 114 football players reported that they were approached to fix a game, and out of 93 of the 114 players have all stated that they suspected an official match they played in was also fixed. In the case this season, it was reported that one of the technical staff members approached a player with a bribe to fix the upcoming match. The player refused and immediately alerted this to the club. In the past, former Atod FC committee member Rugia Scary received a 6-month jail term and a lifetime ban from sports events for his role in match fixing. In 2007, a Maltese national team footballer was convicted of match fixing in a match between Norway and Malta. When it comes to smaller nations in Europe especially, it is primed and almost extremely vulnerable to cases like this happening. The expulsion of Dinaburg FC. And on this similar topic, we're going to Latvia, and this case was a lot more damning. Dating all the way back to 2009, a Latvian top flight club was completely axed and dispelled from the top flight over match fixing. The football club in question was a club called Dinaburg FC, with the FA stating in a statement that Dinaburg's Georgian player manager Tamas Pertia and president Oleg Gavrilovs both were banned for life for any involvement in Latvian football. This showcased irrefutable evidence of repeated match fixing over a lengthy period of time. This was questioned 4 years prior, back in 2005, and previous warnings of them to stop this was all ignored. After the club was expelled from the top flight, the club dissolved immediately and died. The 2021 SK Brand disgrace. Up next is Norway, with one of the worst ones that we've seen in recent years. The 2021 scandal, which rocked Norwegian football completely, where a team bonding night out ended with claims of R and a woman being bitten. This resulted in one player being fired and 3 players quitting. This scandal went on for 3 whole months and horrified the fans of the entire nation. This after party involved 7 women being brought to the stadium. Keep in mind, this was also during the COVID pandemic and protocols were still in place. Of course, this was obviously broken. That played a factor of the annoyance of the Norwegian public. The players actually tried to hide themselves from this by turning off their mobile phones and going off the grid at every means necessary. However, they did forget that CCTV cameras do exist. How did the fans react to this? Well, the first game back since after this incident led to a banner with a simple word, scum, left on it. It didn't go down well. Eddie Hamill. When I first heard the story of Eddie Hamill, it stuck with me as it really showcases how football can be completely overthrown with the politics at a time period. Eddie Hamill was the first ever Jewish player for Ajax. He was an American football player, played for the club for 8 seasons, and Ajax fans would call themselves Jordan, which is Dutch for Jews, which reflects both the team's and the city's Jewish heritage. The year is 1940, and I think you know where I'm going at here. In 1940, when Germany invaded the Netherlands, despite his American citizenship, in late 1942, Eddie Hamill was detained because he was Jewish. He then later spent 4 months doing hard labor at Birkenau. After he was found to be ill, the occupation later on murdered him in the gas chambers. Yeah, that's quite a rough one. Denmark v Sweden, 2008. In the Euro 2008 qualifying rounds, Denmark played Sweden, and in the 89th minute, the game was at 3-3. However, the game ended 3-0 to Sweden. How did this happen? Sweden was indeed leading 3-0 at one time with a great start to the game, and Denmark pulled back a pretty impressive comeback to make it 3-3. Until the 89th minute, Denmark's Christian Poulsen and Sweden's Marcus Rosenberg engaged in a tussle in the Danish penalty area. Rosenberg struck Poulsen and in turn punched Rosenberg in the stomach. A scrap ensued. The referee at the time, referring with his assistant referee, sent off Denmark's Christian Poulsen and awarded Sweden a penalty. Seconds later, a Denmark fan rushed onto the field and attacked the referee, grabbing his neck, and was later intercepted by the several players on the pitch. The officials involving the referee, Herbert van Del, walked straight off the pitch. Only minutes later, an announcement across the entire stadium said Sweden have been given the win, 3-0. The Danish Football Association was later fined €66,000, and a call out by the Danish public was put out to find the perpetrator of the fan that attacked the referee. He was later identified as 29-year-old Ronnie Norvig. However, at the time, his name was left out and only initialized due to the claims of serious threats towards his health and safety. Imagine being the one to run on the pitch, attack a referee, and to literally make your country lose. And because of this incident, it played a huge factor in Denmark not qualifying for Euro 2008. Gibraltar. Now for Gibraltar, I really don't have much at all. Like, genuinely I don't. Like, from what I can find here, the biggest outrage I can find is the fact that the Gibraltar FA changed their logo from this to something that resembles the Citroen logo. Yeah, I don't think much really goes on over there when it comes to football that's that serious. I'm sorry, this is literally the best I could get for Gibraltar. I'm sorry. But I will say this. It does look a bit like the Citroen logo. The Saipan incident. Now it is time for the Irish, and it kinda had to be this one. The Saipan incident took place in 2002 between the Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy and their captain at the time, Roy Keane. This took place in Japan when Ireland was preparing for the 2002 Japan-South Korea World Cup. What happened next sent the Football Association of Ireland into chaos and the following media for several weeks. Roy Keane, as we all know, is not one to keep his mouth shut, and at multiple occasions calls out the FAI and the staff at the Ireland national team, questioning and challenging the unprofessional nature of what they're doing. This involves such things as the players sitting in lower classes compared to the FIA officials, questioning the strategy, questioning the diet, questioning the professionalism towards Mick McCarthy at the time period. All of this led to the following incident, where Mick McCarthy confronted Roy Keane, stating, "What's this all about?" McCarthy accusing Roy Keane of faking an injury against a match to Iran. Roy Keane allegedly said the following: "Mick, you're a liar, you're a anchor. I didn't rate you as a player, I don't rate you as a manager, and I don't rate you as a person. You are a anchor, and you can stick your World Cup up your A. The only reason I have any dealings with you is that somehow you are the manager of my country. You can stick it up you." And later he was sent home. This led to a lot of questions and a big problem of Roy Keane, who at the time was potentially their best player for Ireland, and of course their captain being sent home before World Cup even began. It didn't go down well, and Roy Keane doubled down on this, saying that Mick McCarthy can, quote, "rot in hell." So that was fun. FC Shakura Kubuleti. Next up we got Georgia, or what I like to call England 5 times. It's a cool flag. We'll go into 2023 with top flight club at the time, FC Shakura Kubuleti, was in a relegation battle and halfway through signed a manager which is widely known for match fixing in Georgian football. And the ending of the season led to a few question marks. Number one, they lost their last 3 games of the season 9-0. In the last couple of games of the season, they subbed off their goalkeeper at half time quite a lot of times. Alongside that, making a lot of first half subs in almost every other game. This called to question about match fixing, as this followed a lot of betting patterns at that time period. They were also unable to play at their home ground for the entire season. They also received a transfer ban at the same time. Got deducted 6 points for financial issues, and with 6 matches left to play, they were officially relegated. And after all of this, at the start of this campaign, they were unable to meet licensing requirements, and therefore the club was demoted to the 4th tier of Georgian football. SS Murata 2008. The moment we've all been waiting for. San Marino. Now, you would have believed I'll be going about the national team and about their losing record, but no. I'm going into a team in the San Marino Football League, the team called SS Murata. Now, this is a club founded in 1966 and in 2008 qualified for the UEFA Champions League for the first time in their history. They wanted to make this a big deal. In July 2008, they went for 2 big coups. One was the F1 driver, Michael Schumacher, approaching him to play for the football club. Alongside that, potentially maybe even more mental, is Brazilian star Romario. Both were approached to play for SS Murata for the UEFA Champions League games. Unfortunately, both did indeed decline. Did they win either game? No. They lost both, unfortunately, and were knocked out of the competition. This is about as mental as it can get for San Marino. I would love to see Michael Schumacher play for them, though. Romanian football in the 90s. Football in the 1990s in Romania became a big problem as it was overtook by the government at a time period, as at the time it was seen as a very good way to make a lot of money. So in 1990s, almost every big Romanian club was taken over under the state, becoming money laundering machines under the control of the mafia clans. All of these clubs therefore went through bankruptcy, name changes, and relegation. Most of the clubs that currently exist to this day are copies of the clubs at a time period. Bankruptcy is incredibly common in Romanian football. Multiple top clubs have fallen victim to this. For example, out of all the clubs in the current top flight in Romanian football, I believe about 8 at one time has filed for insolvency. Also, a huge scandal called Blat was found in the 90s too. This was an agreement of presidents of football clubs fixing matches. This was to help them avoid relegation from the first division, and it was reciprocated that they will always give a win to the home team, and that will be returned for the second upcoming match, making them have enough points throughout a campaign to hopefully survive from relegation. Romanian football can be a bit crazy sometimes. Apito dorado. Apito dorado means golden whistle in English, and this is a story about corruption in Portuguese football. This first arose in 2004 when investigators named several football personalities of attempting to corrupt referees. One of the names involves the chairman of FC Porto, Pinto da Costa, and former chairman of Boa Vista FC, and the Portuguese league president, Valentim Loureiro. 4 years on, in 2008, it came out that there was a major concern between a match between FC Porto and Beira-Mar, where Pinto da Costa, Porto's president, delivered an envelope with €2,500 to the referee. Another case involved FC Porto again, regarding a match involving Porto and Estrela de Amadora, where FC Porto offered prostitutes to the match referees. The president of the Portuguese league was sentenced to prison for 3 years and 2 months for abuse of power. FC Porto was docked 6 points and fined €150,000, with Boa Vista FC sentenced to relegation for bribery and referee cohesion. This scandal seriously damaged Portuguese football's and FC Porto's reputation. KI Klaksvik vs Slavan Bratislava. Now we've got the Pharaoh Islands, which this one may not be too intense, but it did cause a bit of a stir. So, in a Champions League first round, the Faroe Islands team KI Klaksvik was meant to play the Slovakian club Slovan Bratislava, in which Bratislava forfeited the first Champions League round, testing positive for COVID-19. And one member from Slovan's delegation tested positive. Because of that one person, the game was postponed for 2 days. After another test, 2 more players tested positive. And after that round of testing, Klaksvik got the forfeited win. This did not go down well in Bratislava, who of course were knocked out of the Champions League for no reason on the pitch, and was labelled scandalous. It was quite a wild time back in 2020. Sunday football in Northern Ireland. Now this is a weird one that people may not be ever aware of, and it dates back to very religious context. Sunday football in Northern Ireland is a very controversial issue. Until 2008, the Irish Football Association prohibited any clubs playing football on Sunday. Now this was abolished in 2008, however, is now decided by several different states or certain clubs that due to a mutual agreement, they can decide to play on a Sunday. However, multiple clubs, such as Linfield, refuses to play on a Sunday due to the religious beliefs. It took until the 29th of March 2015 for the first ever match of international football played on Northern Irish soil on a Sunday, where Northern Ireland withdrew in the Euro 2016 qualifiers against Finland, which caused a massive protest. If you are still questioning why in Northern Ireland the Protestant Christian majority, due to Sunday being Sabbath as a day of rest, there was actually a vote in 2023 about the abolishment. However, this failed due to an overriding vote of 104 to 27 in favour of keeping this rule. I'll be honest, I never even knew this was even a thing. And now you know. The Sunday of Miracles. I felt like because of the headline, I had to put these two back to back. We're going to Poland. Play the meme. The Sunday of Miracles is a coincidental collection of events that took place during the last match day of the 1993 Ekstraklasa season in the Polish top flight. Three teams, Legia Warszawa, LKS Łódź, and Lech Poznan, fought for the championship. On the final day, Legia led LKS on goal difference and Lech 3 points behind in third place. On the final day, LKS played Olimpia Poznan and Legia played Wisła Kraków. And the results were a bit interesting. Both teams won the matches by wide margins. LKS won 7-1 and Legia won 6-0, which led suspicions of corruption. Due to the suspicions of this, the Polish Football Association decided to cancel both these results of both teams, which then led to Lech Poznan winning the championship on the final day. The problem is that neither Legia or LKS were ever found guilty of corruption or any wrongdoing. Due to the lack of any official evidence, they put this down to a vote by the Polish Football Association, and due to 68 to 20 votes, they cancelled the results of both these two games. The official reason being the lack of sporting spirit. Years later, in 2004 and 2007, Legia Warszawa filed applications to revoke this decision and to restore its championship. However, these claims were rejected. Albania v Serbia, 2014. I think a lot of us all remember the incident back in 2014 in the UEFA Euro 2016 qualifying round. On the 14th of October 2014 in Belgrade, Serbia played against Albania and it all kicked off. Surprise. This match was abandoned for countless incidents of hooliganism, with many claims of Albanians and flares and objects being thrown on the pitch. And the most key detail, at one point a drone carrying an Albanian nationalist banner with the image of Greater Albania appeared on the pitch. Serbian player Stefan Mitrovic brought down this banner trying to remove it, with many Albanian players rushing towards him and a scrap took place. This of course triggered a pitch invasion of Serbian fans and security stewards, which then attacked the Albanian players. 4 of course had injuries. The Albanian side also claimed that they were not also attacked by fans but by stewards and riot police. The two countries involved had strong political disagreements regarding Kosovo, which also culminated during the Kosovo War. When they were first drawn, questions about this potentially occurring was put forward to UEFA. However, UEFA remained adamant to defend their decision to keep them in the same group. 10 days later, UEFA awarded Serbia a walkover against Albania, with Serbia deemed to have won the match 3-0, on the grounds that Albania was at fault for refusing to resume the match. In addition, both teams were fined €100,000. This, of course, didn't go down well in Albania. The Court of Arbitration for Sport got involved, and they sided with Albania's appeal, ruled that the match was abandoned due to security lapses by the organisers and acts of violence on the Albanian players. This therefore reversed that result and Albania was awarded a 3-0 victory. Serbia was given a 3-point deduction, were fined €100,000 and ordered to play Serbia home matches without a crowd for at least 2 games. Yeah, football in this part of the world is a bit mental. The Rogas incident. This is an incident that happened only last year between two Slovenian football teams, MK Rogaška and NK Olimpija Ljubljana. I cannot pronounce that. In the Slovenian First Division on the 1st of October 2023, these two sides played against each other, and in the 92nd and 99th minute, Olimpija went on to score the winners in that game, and chaos ensued in the VIP box. The director and the representatives of Olimpija was at the game, and when they scored, they celebrated, which is a typically common thing. However, this riled up the home fans quite a lot, so much so that they were attacked with glass bottles being thrown at them, with two fans actually getting involved in the VIP area to attack the directors of the football club. NK Rogaška was therefore fined for around €4,000 for being unable to control their fans and the lack of security that could have prevented this happening in the first place. Corruption in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The last couple of years for Bosnia has not been great. The Bosnian FA president is nephew to the Bosnian Serb president. If you're not aware, Bosnia and Herzegovina has 3 separate presidents, which is a bit confusing. They have a president which is Bosnian, one that is Croatian, and one that is Serbian. So many claims have been given that the Bosnian Serb president actually has a dislike to Bosnia and is actually pro-Russian. This all came out when in late 2022, off the back of the beginnings of the Russia-Ukrainian war, where Bosnia FA confirmed a fixture with Bosnia v Russia in St. Petersburg. This led to a massive backlash on every channel possible. This therefore sparked fierce pushback from two of the nation's best players, Edin Dzeko and Milan Pjanic. There has also been accusations of calling up players to the national team based on the amount of money that they would accept to be called in. This, of course, asks a lot of questions of corruption within the national team, that players that cost more to play for the national team, they simply just don't get called up in the first place, which of course can lead to the quality of the national team going downwards. FK Borac Banja Luka is a club which is supported by one of these presidents, and many accusations of corruption towards this team has been called out. Recently, as only 4 months ago, in a Bosnian Cup quarter final between FK Sarajevo and Borac stopped after the players at Sarajevo left the field due to claims of corruption and the performance of the referee during that game. This game was cancelled and Borac went to the semi-final. And this isn't the first time they've been called out, where in 2021, fans of the opponent's team, Velez Mostar, set a car on fire of the referee due to being so angered by his decisions during a match between Borac Banja Luka and Velez. Dozens of angry Velez fans invaded the pitch before the end of the match. And this can go back to the year prior, where in late 2020, 2 referees and an official of Bosnia's second division referees were charged for fixing matches between €1,500 to €3,500 a game. The club in question, Borac Banja Luka, appears to have friends in high places and is questioned quite often by Bosnian people to have been rigging football matches towards them. But I'm not calling them out. And there you go, that is the end of part 1. Due to the sheer length of this video, it will potentially be like a 2-hour long video, and I feel like that is just simply a bit too long. If you guys want the part 2, hit that like button. If we see 4,000 likes, then I'll drop the part 2 as soon as possible. I'm really happy with this idea. I think that it covers a large part of European football that people may not even be aware of, and there's still so many more to come. We've still got, I believe, Greece, Turkey, England, Scotland, Italy, Serbia, Ukraine, Russia. The list can go on. So that be all coming in part 2. So I hope you're looking forward to it. Comment down below your favorite stories, and I'll see you very soon. Enjoy your day.